Sunset Crest, Barbados. Tourism as we know it now has only been around for a short period of time. In the past, most people traveled very little, and only explorers, business travelers, or religious pilgrims traveled very far. You could hardly blame them. Long-distance travel was risky. There was a reasonable chance you'd never return. Therefore, you needed a compelling reason to travel, and one such reason was your health. In 1753, a certain Lawrence Washington sailed from Virginia in what would become the United States to Barbados, a British colony. The first Europeans to discover Barbados had been the Portuguese, who named it Los Barbados, or the Bearded Ones, after its unique fig trees. It was reputed to have good air, which is important to this story. Lawrence, you see, had tuberculosis, and the good air of Barbados was seen as therapy. We know this from the journal of his co-traveler, his one-day famous younger brother, George Washington. At the time, very few people visited Barbados voluntarily. For example, English military leader Oliver Cromwell disposed of Scottish and Irish prisoners of war, making them indentured servants and sending them there. Few were ever seen again. Worst off, of course, were the African slaves who were chained and brought here in the thousands and forced to work the sugar plantations in terrible conditions. In contrast, Lawrence and George were welcomed warmly by prosperous landowners unused to visitors. George was impressed by their manners and Bridgetown's huge size, and noticed the advanced military formations. This would come in handy later. Meanwhile, Lawrence wasn't getting much better, and ironically, George contracted smallpox, from which he had to recover before taking the arduous voyage home. In Barbados, meanwhile, the Africans who comprised the majority of the island's population were planning a rebellion, while back in England, the sizable movement to ban slavery was growing stronger. Barbados was due for a reckoning. Then came the mid-19th century when steam power came into its own. This enabled the well-heeled traveler to travel almost anywhere in comfort. Tourism, for the wealthy at least, was born. Yet it wasn't for another 100 years, to the middle of the 20th century actually, when air travel in the form of commercial jets made tourism for the masses attainable. These newly minted tourists had a huge number of travel options. For those in the eastern parts of the US and Canada who yearned for a break from their long winters, the Caribbean was reasonably close and Barbados was the most developed. A group of Canadian investors began a holiday village there called Caricana, play on the words Caribbean and Canada. It never took off, but the site was perfect, and the houses they built were eventually incorporated into what would become Sunset Crest in 1966. And this is where it gets interesting. Sunset Crest key investor Alfredo Laforet, a French chef who many assumed was French-Canadian, was inspired by a resort he had seen in, of all places, Portugal. The resort Alfredo envisioned embraced the concept of all-in-one vacation spots. There, clients had easy access to beaches, pools, shopping, restaurants, tennis courts, and even local transit. The key to this was strata title homes, similar to condominiums, which could be rented out when the owner was away to help pay the mortgage. The Sunset Crest management would assist with this, and Alfredo was able to attract eager Canadian investors. Let's hear from one.
You bought these condos for a very reasonable price, and then Sunflight Tours rented them from you, and you paid you for the rentals so you could get the condo paid off fairly quickly, and then you owned it.
There were other innovations too. The units were prefabricated, so many floor plans, even custom ones, were available, all with access to pools and beach clubs and anything else a vacationer could wish for. The scale of Sunset Crest was definitely ambitious. This had advantages and disadvantages too, as we'll find out, but at its peak it had no peer. Here we have some Sunset Crest residents and visitors describing the Sunset Crest experience.
In Sunset Crest itself, the beach club is really sort of where everybody meets and greets and everything like that.
On the other side, there's lots of restaurants, and there's a great grocery store, that you can walk to. So if you want to cook at home, you can. If you want to go out, you can.
Okay.
Bernadette, is there anything you'd like to tell us?
No, just that I really like it here. I mean, I've very much enjoyed it, and I have some friends that are coming. The fact that you're coming all the time too.
I'm walking along the Sunset Crest Boardwalk on the west coast of Barbados. The sun has just risen, it's slightly overcast, and there's a beautiful rainbow ahead of me. The boardwalk was completed in 2009 and allows you to walk the full length of Sunset Crest by the beach. The water is unusually rough today. Normally the waters are placid. A tourist is enjoying the new day, sitting on one of many benches set out along the boardwalk. Ahead you can see the bay where catamaran tours end. There are a number of 4- and 5-star hotels just north of Sunset Crest. The tours anchor outside the Sandpiper and allow guests to snorkel and see the fish and turtles. Few people are enjoying the beach and going in the water. We are now approaching the beach house, which has the main swimming pool in Sunset Crest. It's open to guests renting apartments or houses in Sunset Crest, and a few passes are available to hotel guests as well. As we pass the beach house, we come to Paul Owen's restaurant. Beside it is the Drift Ocean cocktail bar. Next is the Tides restaurant. For guests who can't take the heat, it offers an air-conditioned room. Note the trees growing through the floor and roof. St. James Villa and Villas on the Beach, the red building, offer luxurious accommodations with ocean views. We're now coming to Zacchio's, which is a great casual bar. They serve people coming off the beach in swimwear until 6 p.m. and have live music some night. Whenever I visit Barbados, wherever I stay, I make a point of going to the East Coast. Very few tourists stay here. The waves from the Atlantic Ocean make swimming impossible, although it's popular with surfers. I'm looking down from Cherry Hill. From here you can see most of the East Coast. This is a view of the whole town government buildings taken from the Massey's grocery store parking lot. On the left is the police station, the library is on the right. There's also a courthouse and post office. Turning, we see the Rubis gas station, which is open 24 hours a day. It sells food, liquor, beer, and cigarettes. It has an ATM. Steve of Steve's Stables is taking a group on a horseback tour past the beach house. Steve once worked at Woodbine in Toronto for E.P. Taylor. They're now going along the public access back to the main road. A view of the sea from behind the beach house. The Whole Town Festival is held every year in mid-February to commemorate the arrival of English explorers in 1627. Here we can see some of the numerous stalls set up selling various types of goods. This is the Barbados Polo Club near Sunset Crest and Holders Hill. Today a Canadian team is playing against a Barbados team. This is a shortcut from the main road to Flamboyant Avenue, where I was staying. The houses on Flamboyant are all single bedroom, with a living dining room and kitchenette in front and a bedroom behind. Green monkeys, or vervets, are not native to the Americas, but came to Barbados aboard slave ships. Today they can be found throughout the island, especially in the north. The monkeys live in bands of related individuals. Each band follows a daily route where they scavenge for food. Today, they're at the Golden Dream Condominium, a group of 8 houses on Flamboyant Avenue. Some of the guests throw them bananas, which they appear to enjoy. The monkeys tend not to be aggressive, but visitors are advised to keep their distance. Vervets in St. Kitts are known to steal tourist drinks at all-inclusive resorts, binge drink, and go wild. But tourists in Barbados, few of whom go all-inclusive, are more likely to hold on to their drinks. The sound of whistling frogs. These frogs are about a half-inch long and spend their entire life cycle living in trees. They're so good at hiding, many Bayesians have never seen one, but their sounds fill the night air.
Things were going great at Sunset Crest, at least until 1980, when a global recession combined with high interest rates hit Canada hard. Overseas tourism nearly collapsed, and major tour operators like Sun Tours and Fairway were on the ropes. Big operators were critical for Sunset Crest's bottom line, and dealing with the now scarce small operators made it hard to keep the lights on. Then there was more bad news. In early 1981, as completion of the project drew near, founder Alfredo Laforet resigned as chairman of Sunset Crest. He expressed confidence that the new chairman would continue his good work. But many owners were worried because Sunset had been renamed Lewis L. Bailey & Son Limited, and the original deal was that they would share ownership of the common areas, including the beach club, when the project was finished. However, it increasingly seemed that the development would continue until Lewis L. Bailey & Son declared it finished. This did not sit well with the owners, including the indomitable Sheila Shepherd, and the fight for control commenced, eventually moving to court. In the meantime, as you can imagine, Sunset Crest was barely hanging in there. They were short on cash and bills needed paying. They were canceling maintenance services, and soon the place was looking pretty shabby. An increasing share of the costs were borne by the owners. When we think of tourism, we think of a clean, environmentally friendly industry. To some extent, this is true. But tourists still want things like air conditioning, hot showers, boats, buses, hot meals, and chandeliers. These require fossil fuels, not just to run the boats and buses, but to also generate electricity. You're probably thinking that a place with a sunny climate and prevailing winds would be perfect for renewable energy. But the infrastructure is costly, and to have the equivalent of what's available right now would take a while. And right now I can't imagine a tourist patiently waiting hours to take a shower or go for a boat ride. Anyway, Sunset Crest, which has long depended on upfront fees from new investors to pay for stuff, but now had no new investors, almost went belly up. The existing owners were paying for everything, a major hardship for some. But finally, the owners prevailed thanks to folks like Sheila Shepherd, and Sunset Crest was able to set the sustainable course it's still on. As far as Barbados goes, the challenges facing this beautiful island are the same that face other coral islands and low-lying countries. The effect climate change will have on sea levels and other things like wind patterns. Barbados may be small, but you would be hard-pressed to find another place that is both unique and played such a pivotal role in the story of the New World. We owe it to the descendants of people who went there, often unwillingly, to help with their struggle against the effects of climate change and transition to renewable energy.